no, if I have I guess performance anxiety, I can't do well when like I know I'm being recorded.
Oh, this is just to get you to get used to the stress in the exam room. You will surely be recorded in the exam room, because when you get into the exam room, the examiner will say, okay, you sit down and you have to give your ID card. And then they will ask you will say that, okay, your speaking exam will be recorded. And they will press on that machine, beep, and then the whole 15 minutes of your exam time will be recorded, of course. And that recording files will be sent to England. And other people will listen to it and then give you a band score. So your examiner will give one band score, like one person will give a score, and then maybe another person will give another score. And if the difference between the score is more than 0.5, there will be a third person coming in to assess your speaking part again. And then all the three combined together, divided by 3, will give you a band score. You know that, right? So anyway, you have to get used to the stress of the speaking exam anyway. Don't worry, Cole. Don't worry. No worry, okay? No stress. Okay, now next question. Could you please describe the place you live in? This is part 1 speaking.
The place I live in, we have roughly 2 rooms. No, 1 room per floor. The rooms are quite small because
yes. Okay, hesitation will not be good. Please don't hesitate when you say, okay. Let's do another question. Can you describe bedroom? Can you describe your bedroom?
My bedroom is quite small, with just 1 large bed and 3 desks. One is my work desk. The other is for my grandmother's for her medicine and her devices, and the last desk is used for our clothing and has a TV on top of it.
Right. So do you like the room? You should describe okay, when you describe your bedroom, you should say what's good and what's bad about it. Do you like it or something like that? Don't just list out the things that it has, okay?
Okay.
You should tell what's good and what's bad about it as well. Can you?
What I like about this room personally is that since it's small, it's quite easy to navigate around, because it's not. It's since we don't have a lot of things, it's not very cramped, and I can put up my own decorations.
Is it? Right. Okay, so my next question is, is there anything that needs to be improved in your flat? Okay, think about improvement, for example, decoration, or say, is it too cramped? Is it too large? Or you feel like your house needs a total renovation? Is there something is it too light or too dark? Something like that. Think about it.
In my opinion, for improvements in this building, I think it would be better to install more lights on the staircases, because at this current moment in time, the rooms compared to the staircases are too bright.
Oh, I see. So there's a risk of people falling down the stairs when it's too dark, isn't it?
Mm. Mm.
So I would advise your family to, let's say, purchase some tape. There's a safety tape that they often stick on the floor. I mean, the staircase to prevent people from falling, right?
Mm.
Right. These tape are safety tape. You can stick on the floor. I mean, the staircase. So it's called anti-slip tape, I think. Anti-slip tape. All right. Next question is, what can you see when you looked out the window of your room?
Okay. When I look outside my window, since like my window's not like doesn't go outside.
Isn't
When I look out the window, I just see like like half of downstairs, which is the parking area.
I see. So it doesn't have a nice view, isn't it?
Yeah.
I see. So let's come to the topic of hometown now. So where do you come from, and can you describe it?
Mm.
So
I
where
come
do you
from. I come from here, Ho Chi Minh City.
So you were born in Ho Chi Minh City?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That is only one sentence. Please expand it. Okay. Dragon, where do you come from, please?
I come from here, Ho Chi Minh City. I.
Yes.
I don't know how to expand on this.
Okay. Basically, you said you come from Ho Chi Minh City, but how about like explaining or describing the city? If it's like a metropolitan area, has a population of how much, or is it crowded? Is it busy city, or you like walking around, or is it too difficult to move around? Is it a nice and quiet or very loud area? Yeah, try it again, please. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, sorry. Mr. Lin. So where do you come from?
I come from Ho Chi Minh City. The street, in my opinion, the streets are quite noisy, but it doesn't get too annoying most of the times. It has a population of over 9 million people, and sometimes can be quite pleasant to walk around in.
I see. Okay, so my next question is, what's the weather like in your hometown? What's the weather like?
The weather can be quite unpredictable sometimes, where it just rains constantly, or sometimes there are light showers. Some days where there is close to no rain.
Okay, that would be good enough. Good enough. Now, so what is the most attractive part of your hometown? Please don't tell me it's District 7. It's not attractive. District 7 is just full of boring old people, and it's just so boring in here. Yes.
I find that some parks around the city are quite nice and calming to be in. For example, there's this park around my school where there's no traffic and is usually like no one's in it, so I feel it's like quite pleasant to just take a walk in.
Take a stroll, right?
Hmm.
You know, there's a saying, just take a stroll. Cole, if you check the chat function of Zoom, you can see that I'm sending you something on the chat there.
Oh.
To take a stroll means to take a walk. To take a stroll or to take a walk. All right. So, my next question is, has your hometown changed much these years?
I haven't personally seen any major changes aside from a few big malls opening, for example, Aeon Mall or Giga Mall in
Bintan, right? In Bintan district, right?
Mm.
I see. Okay, so do you know much about the history of your hometown?
I don't.
You know, okay,
Like,
I'll give you some idea. Ho Chi Minh City was formerly called Saigon, and this city belongs to basically the old government. So after 1975, the communists took over the city, and they, of course, they united the country, and basically, the Americans left the country. They fled the country, and then a lot of people, they fled the country as well. It wasn't a nice thing because a lot of people died on the sea. Because people, when fleeing from the country, they have to go through the sea, right? So they fled the country through that way, and they died on the sea because of pirates, because of sharks, or because of just drowning. A lot of them managed to get to America, Australia, Thailand, Japan, Indonesia, or anywhere else. Well, but that is not like some good history to talk about, though. This question only talk about history of your hometown. So, if you do not know, how do you say it? You can say like, history has never been my cup of tea. You know that expression, right? Has never been my cup of tea, which means like, it has never been my interest. Therefore, it is quite difficult for me to get to form. It's difficult for me to be able to describe my home, the history of my hometown. If you say this, well, it's still considered as an answer, right? Of course, it does. Describe history of my hometown. And then you can say, but if I have to try, I would say that this city has undergone a lot of major changes after the war ended. And then you have to say something more, like for example, how it changes. Like for example, there are more skyscrapers, high-rise buildings, and the people became much more richer than before. The education system, the English level people, the infrastructure of the city, something like that. Okay, try again. So, do you know much about the history of your hometown?
History has never been in my interest, so it's quite difficult for me to describe the history of it. However, do know that before the war, it was called Saigon,
Yes.
and after the war ended, it was changed to Ho Chi Minh City after named after
the leader Ho Chi Minh's. Yeah. Yes. Basically that's it. Yeah. Enough. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so do you think you will still be living in your hometown in the future?
That's something I haven't considered yet because I might stay in Australia after I'm finished with uni studies to pursue work, since back here my Vietnamese isn't as good as my English, so it might be difficult for me to get any work.
I see. That's a very subtle way to say that your Vietnamese level just really bad. That's a very subtle way to say. Okay, very nice. That's a very British way to say it. Vietnamese has never been my forte. Okay. Has never been my strength or my forte. Okay. That's good enough for part 1, 2, and 3. I mean, no, that's part 1 only for speaking, but 3 topics. So if you go now to page, let me see, part 2 and 3, page 12 out of 34. You can see the topic people. I mean, mostly talk about people. So page 12. Describe. Okay, so basically, what do they ask you to do in part 2 and 3 combined? Part 2, they will assess your correct usage of past tense, present tenses, past tenses, and future tenses. Whether you use them correctly. So they will ask you to describe something. Can be a person. Can be you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. Can be a person. Can be a building. Can be a celebration, event, or something like that. And of course, right. This part 2, you only have 60 seconds to think. You can be provided a piece of paper and pencil, to write some ideas out, but you have only like 60 seconds, okay? Right. And after that 60 seconds, you have to present. We have to present it. You have to present it in, say, 1 to 2 minutes. The whole thing. If you exceed that 2 minutes, the examiner will say, stop. They'll be like that. It's quite rude, I know, it's quite rude. But the examiner will have to stop you because they have to go to part 3. You guys have to go to part 3. Because why? There are many people waiting to get to take the exam. So that's why they have to stop you if you exceed that 2 minutes time frame. For part 3, it will be exactly the same topic for part 2. But part 3, they will try to push you forward, push you to your limits of your speaking ability. They will try to make you answer like more abstract questions that requires you to think more and to present like more ideas and use better vocabularies, better expression, and better everything. It's like all of your weapons, knowledge, all of your expression, all of your weapons, guns, rockets, whatever, bring it out. Okay, and basically in part 3, I would advise people to say it as much as they can. Because if you speak a lot, the examiner would not have enough time to ask more questions. But well, it's just a way I would do. Well, okay, let's try it, shall we? Ready? Now, the part 2. Describe a family member who you spend the most time with. These are the cue cards. You must answer these things, okay? It's okay if you miss out like 1 point here, but it is a wise thing to follow all of them, okay? Okay, you should say who this person is, what kind of person he or she is, what do you usually do together, and explain why you spend most time with him or her. So here, it doesn't talk about something in the past or the future, right? So you should use present tense just normally.
Okay.
Okay, no, wait. You have 60 seconds to think. 60 seconds start now. Okay, you can do it now. Describe a family member who you spend the most time with. Your 2 minutes start now.
The person I spend the most time with is my grandma. She is
Grandmother.
quite
Yes,
strict. She is quite strict, but most of the time she's very nice and caring. Usually I help her. I fix some. I help her fix issues she usually has with the technology she has, like her iPads or her phone. I spend the most time with her because since I was fairly young, at I'd say 4 years old, I've been raised by her until now, and right now I'm also sharing a room with her.
Okay, that is 1 minute and 5 seconds, which is okay, good enough. Okay, is there any special moments or memories you have with her? Extra questions, follow-up question. It's extra follow-up question. Is there any memories or things that you share with her? Any memories?
She used to take me to school and back from school when I was in reception to year 6. I also remember that in the past I used to not want to be away from her because I was scared.
You were scared? Oh, I see. Okay, now let's come to part 3 now. Okay, bring out all of your weapons. Be a veteran. So let's talk about this one. What are the benefits of younger and older generations living together? Try it.
I feel like some of the benefits of a younger and older generation living together is that the younger generation can see what they have to do for like future generations that they're eventually going to have to raise. And for the older generation, I feel they can also help teach the younger generation if something is wrong, and like what they are meant to and not to, what they are meant to do and not meant to do.
So you mean to discriminate between right and wrong? To discriminate between right and wrong, and to behave according to ethical code, right? To behave according to good ethics. All right, let's talk more about it. I'll give you some ideas. So older and younger generation living together, you can share the life experience with each other. So as a whole, it is more difficult for people to say scam you guys because of experience of the old. Like in difficult times, the older generation can provide support, like mental support or maybe even financial support for the younger person, isn't it? But also the younger generation can, of course, they are new. They embrace new technology and things, so they can teach the older generations how to cope with the new technology and new era. And at the same time, because of the health issues that the older people often have, the younger generation, the younger people can be able to support them in case of emergency, right? In case of emergency. Well, that is the two most common thing I can think about. Okay, so how about the drawbacks? Can you imagine how living with many different generations can cause what kind of problems? Drawbacks. Okay, think about this one. Privacy. If you want to bring your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, to a home, it would be an very awkward moment when you have to face the older people, especially your parents, right? Think about this. Privacy could be a problem, and think about different way of life. Of course, the older generation would be more likely to live a more, how can I say, conservative way of life, and they would not be likely to accept new concepts and new things, right? While the younger people, they are much more likely to accept new concepts and new influences. Therefore, there's something called generation gap. The gap between different generations, generation gap. That can create a lot of conflict. If not resolved, it could produce a lot of, quarrel and, unhappy vibe in a family, Nobody wants to have that. Okay, that is one drawback, privacy, and the second one, it's the different mindsets, mentality, mindset. And it all comes down to a generation gap. Okay, can you try again? So how about the drawbacks of younger and older generations living together?
The possible drawbacks I can think of currently are that there is going to be a lack of privacy between the two parties, where the younger generation might have some things that they don't want the older generation to see, or vice versa. And because of the generation gap, they might not want to live the same lifestyle, and could create friction between the two parties.
Wow, perfect. You use the wording very good. Friction between the two parties. Very good. Okay, anything else? Okay, I think that's good enough. So next question for part 3. Which do you prefer? Support from your friends or support from your family members? And how come or why?
In my opinion, for minor moral support or mental support, I would prefer to get it. I would rather get it from friends, because I feel like for small issues that don't require like a lot of help, I think that they can understand our viewpoint and potentially not help, not like get too deep into the issue like our families would. But for big issues or for financial support, I feel we should turn to our family members for those types of help, because they'll know what to say to like help you, since they've been with you for your entire life.
Well, because having stayed with each other in a lifetime, they understand. How can I say, in and out, right? They understand you in and out, so they would be able to provide the most appropriate advice, isn't it? I mean, that's just only like a potential advice, you know. Sometimes staying with the whole family for like a decade or 20 years, 30 years, still people wouldn't understand you sometimes. Okay, let's continue with number 2. Okay, topic number 2. Describe a person who taught you something, knowledge or principle. So you see, it's in past tense because you are taught, right? You were taught. Knowledge or principle. A person who taught you something, knowledge or principle. You should say who this person is, what he or she is like, what he or she taught you, and how you felt about him or her. And you also have part 3, you can see here. What qualities do you think a good teacher should have? Who do you think can learn better? The elders or the youngsters? What do you think is the best age for children to go to school, and why? And then, do you prefer to study by yourself or with your friends, and why? Remember, this is part 3. So even though the question might sound easy like part 1, you have to bring out all of your ideas and expression and vocab, all the weapons. Weapons free. It's like that. Okay. Okay, so you have 1 minute now to think about part 2. Ten more seconds. 10 seconds. All right, you can just describe a person who taught you something now, knowledge or principle, please.
Someone who has taught me something is my best friend. he is very nice and caring for you or for me, and he has taught me the importance of friendship, because before him, like, I had no one to I had no friends. He also helped me with some math problems that I've had for, say, either exams or homework. Now I feel very grateful for him, or to him, because without him I wouldn't be where I am now.
Right. So it sounds like you have all 4 points covered. Good enough. Very good. Even though it's like quite short, so I'll ask you one follow-up question. Are you still keeping contact with him?
Yes, till this day we still talk pretty much every day.
Oh. Cool. And we will see how the future holds. Okay, right, good enough. Let's go to part 3 now. So, Mr. Cole Lin, what qualities do you think a good teacher should have?
The most important quality of a teacher, in my opinion, is probably respect for the students, because if you don't have like respect for your children, if you don't have respect for your students, then I don't think that
Children,
they'll have respect for you. They're not gonna have any respect for you, and in the future it's gonna
let's not use the word gonna and wanna in here, okay? Going to and want to. Don't use gonna and wanna in IELTS, okay? Going to or want to. Okay, let's try again. So what qualities do you think a good teacher should have?
I think the most important quality of a teacher should be respect for the students, because if the teacher doesn't respect their students, they are not going to have any respect for the teacher, and will have a butterfly effect where they will ultimately not learn anything from the teacher and will harm their studies in the future, or can potentially harm their studies in the future.
Can potentially harm their study in the future. Very good. So any other qualities besides respect for the students? How about devotion? Devotion for the work, devotion for the students. How about knowledge and skills? What do you think about those things? Is that also of utmost importance as well?
Yes, because, say for example, without knowledge, then like the information that the teacher is giving to their students isn't going to be sufficient for them. And say, for example, again, without devotion, if the teacher doesn't have any devotion to like teach, then he's not going to or they're not going to care whether or not their student's doing well or not.
Let's say, okay, let's put it in a more academic way. So let's say without devotion, the work, how can I say, the work would not be of a high quality, isn't it? And as a result, the student would be the victim of that kind of attitude. And it would harm their future and their background knowledge greatly, as well as their future. You know what they say, right? If you want to harm a country, harm the education system first. It's gonna be very long term. Okay, yeah. Okay, very good. So respect for the students, dedication and devotion. Okay, so next question for you. Who do you think can learn better? Old people or youngsters, and why?
In my opinion, I think youngsters can learn better, because sometimes the older people might be fixated on what they already know, and might think that some information that they're being told might be incorrect. Whereas youngsters, since they don't know much to begin with, they can, I guess, have a easier time absorbing the information that they're being given by their teachers.
Right. So you are talking about like absorption of knowledge. I see. How about like, the ability to question the knowledge? Of course, the older people, they question the knowledge more than the young people, isn't it? Because they use the experience to question the knowledge more. And because they question the knowledge more, do you think it could affect their study, their learning process? No?
Yes.
Think about that.
Because
just think
since
about
they're
that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. Just keep thinking. It's an ongoing debate, because some people who are really old, like 60 years old or something, they still keep on learning and they're really good. But some young people, if they stop learning for like 1 or 2 years, and then when they learn something back, it's really slow for them. So I think it really depends on like whether you continuously learn or you stop for a good amount of time or something like that. It's not about the age. It's just like if you keep on learning or not. So okay, let's do the next question. What do you think is the best age for children to go to school?
In my opinion, I don't think there is a best age to start school at, because when children go to school, if they go at a young age, then they can learn more. But if they go at a later age, they have better usage of the language that they speak in, which helps them socialize and get friends at an early stage. Because, for example, for me, I started at a very young age where I didn't know like Vietnamese or English to begin with, so I had troubles making friends, and I was just alone for a good majority of like the early years.
Is that why you become an introvert?
Pretty much.
Yes, that's the reason for your introverted behaviors. Okay. Okay, introverted behavior. Okay. So your idea is that as soon as possible, right? They should go to school as soon as possible, like 3 years old, for example, maybe.
If they have like good usage of the or good knowledge of the language, then yeah.
I see. Okay. Think about. So you're saying that if they have a good knowledge of the language, they should go to school. I mean, as soon as possible. But what do you think about like not attending kindergarten? Do you think not attending kindergarten is a good idea?
Not necessarily, because it can provide kindergarten.
Yes.
Although I haven't gone through it like personally, I think that it can be a good way to like make friends at an early stage of school, so you're not lonely, so that you can like be with someone for quite a while, and it can also teach you like how you should act in a school.
So you mean how to behave in a social situation, right? How to behave in a social situation. Okay, and what else? How to manage conflict, right? How to manage conflicts with friends. And of course, how to cooperate. That is a very important skill. How to cooperate with others. That is a very important skill, to learn. Alright, so do you prefer to study by yourself or with your friends?
Mm. I think that sometimes studying with a friend could help, because if there's something that you don't get, then you can ask him for help, assuming that they know how to help you.
Okay,
But
okay, let's say that in a more formal way. Like studying by yourself, I mean, so studying with friends would enable you to get support from them, right? To enable you to get support from someone, or to be able to, how can I say, to gain benefit from their knowledge and wisdom, to gain benefits from their shared knowledge and wisdom. Because of course, many friends, there are many different like minds, right? So different minds, they can have different knowledge and wisdom that you can get benefit from. So to gain benefit from their shared knowledge and wisdom. Yes. Okay, please continue.
However, I think sometimes studying by yourself can also be efficient, because if there's a chance that like when you're studying with your friends that you can distract each other, or
So let's try to speak it in a more formal way. So when studying together, distraction could be an issue. Distraction could be an issue. Distraction could be an issue. And that requires people to, how can I say, really want, if they really want to study, they will have to, focus, right? So you can say distraction could be an issue. Therefore, people need to concentrate on their work and study more. If they would like if they would like to study with their friends, if they would like it to work. All right, I think that's good enough of a practice for today. Well, I do believe that it is not a good idea to practice for like 2 hours. This is too much. I mean, speaking too much like that, it's just killing. It's not a good thing. Okay, so I think for your work, you need to do the writing, and you know what to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think we should stop this recording here so you won't get stressed out anymore.